Hello traders, this is Mel with the Hispeed Trading Company. Today in lesson 7, part 1, we're going to talk about trading psychology and why it is important to understand this and to have a grasp on it. So let's get started. The objectives in part 1 is why is psychology important? How to improve your psychology, and then we're going to talk about some action steps. Chances are, if you're here listening to this, you have probably blown up a trading account. And let me be brutally honest with you. I've been trading for almost 30 years. And I shouldn't say that's a little bit not true, because it hasn't been 30 years consistently. But I started trading in around 97, and I would save up money, put it in an account, blow the account, or just take it down so far that I couldn't stand it anymore. And then 4 or 5 years later, I'd do it again, and then I'd do it again, and then I'd do it again. So this last time, I decided that I've got to work on those parts of me that aren't getting addressed. And so that's why we're looking at trading psychology. The goal is to help you stop blowing up your accounts. We've all probably heard the phrase that 95% of the traders fail, which I believe that is probably very, very true. I think a lot of the prop firms that come out with that same statistic. So I want to be part of the 5%, not the 95. So hopefully you do too. It's important because the markets are designed to take your money from you, and they do it by manipulating your emotions. These markets have been around for hundreds of years. The first commodities market went on back in, I believe it was China, and so they've been around a long time, and they have perfected the art of manipulating the market in such a way that it draws you in and sucks you in and takes your money. And lastly, it's important because the more you work on psychology, the better you will become as a trader. Psychology is so key to everything you do. So let's look at a quote. This is a great book. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you read this book because he talks about why you need to be what makes the 5% different from the 95%. So, because that's a question you got to ask yourself. Do you want to be part of the 5% or the 95%? If you want to be part of the 5%, you got to do what the 95% are doing. But let's look at a quote by him. For every hour you spend on technical analysis, you must set aside at least 25% of that time for what I call internal analysis. You need to know what your weaknesses are. You need to know what your strengths are. You need to know what you're good at. You need to know what you're not good at. Very few people, if ever, will engage in that level of introspection in order to gain the results they want. If you want to be part of the 1%, you've got to do what the 99% are not doing. And this is so key, and I think that the main part of that is working on your psychology, working on your mind. How can you improve your psychology? Well, right now there's some really simple things you can do to help you improve your psychology when it comes to your trading. Number one, have a set of rules. You'll probably hear this over and over and over again. In the beginning, I didn't want a set of rules because I felt like if I had a set of rules, I'd be limited in what I could do. And as I developed as a trader, I started to realize that those rules keep me in a box that keep me safe. So I live and die by those rules. If I find myself doing something that is not written in my rules and I feel like it needs to be, I'll write it in my rules. As I develop, I will eventually, there are some rules that I'll start to lax off on. and take out of my rules. But just so it's a living document that so to speak that you will use to help you improve your trading. Number two, do not trade when your emotions are high. If you get in a fight with your wife, your girlfriend, your dog, whatever, maybe not a good day to trade. I know there are days I wake up and I say, I'm just feeling a little off today. And it never fails when I trade on those days, I just generally do not have a good day. Proper risk management. If you are betting the bank on every single trade, it's just a matter of time before you start going into tilt, start blowing up your account, start going off the deep end. So begin to work on risk management. We'll have a video on that here real quick, but risk management, it's really, really important. Do not overtrade. Overtrading is kind of it's a little bit different for everybody. I mean, I've watched guys on YouTube that trade live stream, and they're doing 20, 30, 40 trades a day. In the beginning, I would do probably 20 trades a day. I'm down to the point now that if I trade 8 trades in a day, that's a lot for me. If I start getting past 8, then I have to start asking myself, am I over trading? Am I trying to get too much juice out of this lemon, so to speak? Lastly, do not revenge trade. There's some things inside of us that make us want to get back when we've lost. And that can come in so many different ways. Let me just give you a couple examples. I think the thing that affects me personally, one of the worst things is, let's say I get in a trade and that trade goes up, let's say 100 ticks, and I don't take any profit, and that trade comes back against me, and I end up either break even or even losing. And now subconsciously, I'm thinking, because while I'm in that trade, I start owning that money. I think that money's mine. So when it comes back down to zero or negative, now I feel like I've lost. And the sense of lost is a huge emotion. Most people will do more to prevent loss than they will to get gain. So something to think about. If you revenge trade, begin to look at, why do you do it? Why do you revenge trade? What's going on in your mind? Some action steps. Journal your emotions. Every good trader that I know journals their trading on a daily basis. Maybe that's electronically. I'm old school. I write everything down, and I write it as I go. If I'm in a trade, this morning was a great example. I was in a trade, and I noticed myself, my hands were shaking a little bit, and I could just feel that anxiousness in my body. And I wrote that in my journal. I'm feeling a little anxious right now. And so that way I can go back and review that trade and kind of figure out, okay, what caused that anxiousness? But the other thing is, okay, now that I'm anxious, I need to start doing things and taking steps to calm down. So journal your emotions. And number 2, we kind of talked about this, review your trades. Go back at the end of the day, go at the end of the week, look at all your trades and say, okay, where were my emotions? Why were they high? Why were they low? Because as you begin to journal these and review these, you'll start to get a better understanding of where you're at. I generally rate mine on a scale of 1 to 10. This morning I said I was at a 6. 10, I would call 10 full tilt, and we'll talk about tilt in part 2. But I will kind of put down on a scale of 1 to 10 where I'm at, because that way I can also keep track of, okay, maybe I need to do some things to help bring this emotional stress, this emotional anxiousness down. Become aware of where your emotions are so you know when to trade and when to walk away. This kind of comes back to how I scale mine on a scale of 1 to 10. And if they start getting too high, then I need to do something. And that something may be, and we'll talk about this more in part 2, but that might be stopping and spending some time in mindfulness. It might be going outside. It might be taking a little bit of a walk. It might be chatting with a buddy of mine that I'm on trading online with, or it could be even writing in your journal. Writing can be very therapeutic. So these are some simple things to help you get started. I hope these help you. Leave any comments, like the video, subscribe. I appreciate every single one of you. And until next time, be blessed.